The Kraken way is certainly players that can bring that speed, that energy to the table here and stuff for sure. And I think we feel very good about our forward prospects. I think we are also very excited about some of our goaltending prospects. If we can add some more D prospects to the mix, we'll certainly be looking at that element. But the fact that we're drafting 18-year-old kids, it's still going to take so long down the road till they actually help our team. We're still going to continue to look for best player in most situations.
Kraken General Manager Jason Botterill and his crew getting ready for the NHL Draft, which gets underway tomorrow in Buffalo. Let's welcome in Kraken broadcaster Alison Lukan, who has been with the team since its inaugural season in 2021. Alison, thank you for coming on and talking some hockey with us.
Anytime two of my favorite people ask me to help them out, I am on the case because it's great to see you both.
Oh, that's awesome.
I owe Alison a lot, Paul. We did those pregame shows, and she was always helping me out. I'd be like asking dumb questions. She's like, "There's no dumb questions, Chris. Just ask away." And Alison is incredible.
That's the beauty of working with Alison during those broadcasts. She steadies everything, and all you really have to do is mention a name and say go. Or actually, she's even better yet. She says, "Here's where we're going with this," and Chris and I just go, "Whatever you need."
Checks in the mail, boys. Checks is in the mail.
That's right. Okay, listen, the team made a couple of moves recently, signing Bobby McMahon to a long-term contract and then trading for Mackie Semaskevich. Man, I knew I'd get that. I just had to hang on a little bit. But let's start with McMahon. He's getting a 6-year deal. What made him such a priority for the organization?
Yeah, I think a couple things, right? First and foremost, this is a player they were able to bring in, and now they know he works with this group. And not only does he work, he does exactly what this team needs. And you heard General Manager Jason Botterill talk about that in the clip that we just saw, which is that he's fast. He goes to the net. And what he is able to do with that speed is capitalize on how the Kraken like to play, which is aggressive defensively, which means you try and take the puck away from your opponent. And then you have a teammate like Bobby McMahon, who's right there to jump on the puck, to drive down the ice, and then he has the ability to score. He was 1 away from 30 last season. And so again, when you look at what the Kraken needed, he fits the bill, and he's proven that he can fit the bill. And I think the icing on the cake for me, and perhaps most importantly in some people's books, is that he chose to stay here. And I think that's an awesome compliment on the team, the organization, and the people who are running it. That was one of his first compliments, was to compliment the people in the front office, starting with Jason Botterill, and say how meaningful it was to get to know the caliber of people they were, the caliber of the organization they're trying to build. And that was a huge piece of him wanting to be here for the next few years.
No question about it. He wants to be here. He wants to help this team win. Paul also mentioned the trade for Mackie. 23-year-old forward, won a Stanley Cup with Florida, reunites with former Michigan teammate Matty Beniers. How much can that familiarity help Mackie, and what can we expect from him?
Yeah, one of the things I loved, Mackie spoke with us a couple days ago, and he shared that what was so special about that team at University of Michigan that he was on with Matty Beniers was the shared love of hockey. And you guys know, you've been around the rink. Matty Beniers loves to stay out after practice. He loves to hone his craft. And so I think culturally, first and foremost, that's going to be huge for this group that is looking to take that next step, that is looking to be in the playoffs year after year. That's going to start to set a standard, particularly as younger guys maybe come in. And then this is a player who, we just talked about, Bobby McMahon, who is fast, who can score. That's what Mackie brings too. And he was coming from that winning culture in Florida. He knows the demands that it takes to get to those Stanley Cup finals. And this is a player who's younger. We just talked about Bobby McMahon, who's quote unquote a late bloomer. Mackie is 23 years old. And so what's great is when he was with Florida, maybe he wasn't getting the opportunity that would allow him to really show what he can do. There's a lot of untapped potential here for him. And so again, a younger player, we look at a group that's building, again, capitalizing with players like Matty Beniers as well, and the other young players on this team. That's going to be a nice piece of the offense as well. He's super stoked to be here. And I would be a bad analyst if I didn't point out that his twin sister, Maddie, is playing with the Vancouver Golden Eyes up north, so he's got some family right around the way.
We are going to talk about the PWHL in just a few, and the Seattle Torrent as well, but I got to steer our attention now to the NHL Draft. It starts tomorrow in Buffalo. A lot of fans would love to see this team get offense after offensive weapon. Is that the top of the list for this Kraken team going into the draft?
Yeah, you never know. And this year, I am telling you, if people are paying attention to what's been going on the past couple of days, first round picks are moving all over the place. So to answer your question specifically, the Seattle Kraken are going to look for the best player available, I would imagine. That's the best thing you can do, because even if a player isn't in your long-term plans eventually, by the time they're NHL ready, they're going to have the highest value if you need to move them. But maybe there's some defense that they look to. You heard Jason Botterill mention that. And what's happening now with these teams maneuvering that are even in front of the Kraken, San Jose getting a 5th overall pick, which is insane. Those things never move. Or excuse me, Buffalo gets that, and San Jose is doubling up on first-round picks as well. These are teams that maybe are closer to a championship window, and so they may have specific holes they need to fill. So that might allow some higher talent that's maybe not best player available to fall to the Kraken. So they're just going to see how these chips fall. I don't know what to expect this year. The trades have been insane so far.
Alison, we see a lot of the teams when it comes to the draft drafting teenagers. Why do you think teams don't take more college players in their early rounds, guys who are in their 20s, maybe with a little more experience?
Yeah, the tide is changing. It's a great question. And, 10 years ago, we're really looking primarily at the Canadian junior leagues and perhaps European. But the NCAA, particularly with NIL situations coming into play, are now becoming more competitive. And it's a great question by you, because arguably, you look at the fact that historically NCAA players maybe trended a little older. In hockey, unlike some of the other major sports, these players don't often jump right to the big leagues. So is there an opportunity, to your point, for an older player to maybe be more mature and more ready? The projected 1st overall draft pick is playing at Penn State right this past season. We'll see. The talent is going to demand where players should be picked, not necessarily the stream of where they come from anymore.
Well, follow up on that a little bit. Macklin Celebrini was such a great pick for them out of Boston and for San Jose, and he just hit the ground running and just started lighting the lamp. And it's just like, it does make you think. Why aren't we seeing more of this? And is the trend a little bit more toward getting college players? Because as Kraken fans, and Chris and I are Kraken fans, broadcasters are fans, and we're sitting there watching this team. We're like, we have to. There were 18 and 19-year-olds coming up to the junior leagues, and you're like, man, we got to wait, 3-4 years for this guy to contribute? And so it is a little bit frustrating, but I know that's what the NHL draft is all about.
Yeah. And, again, it's different, right? Because so many of us, particularly in the States, have come from the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, right? These are the sports we look at where a player immediately jumps in and contributes. Hockey's, again, a little bit different. It's usually not many players outside that top 5 picks, maybe top 10, that are truly ready to jump into the NHL. That's a huge leap physically, mentally, IQ-wise. So it's different in the NHL. It's younger aged picks historically, so they're going to need a little bit more time. The other point that we forget, particularly in the NHL, a lot of times, most of these teams with these top picks are teams that have really struggled, which means they have holes on their roster that they can fill. The Kraken have, and so do a lot of other teams, a good balance right now of players who have established themselves in the NHL. So it becomes even more challenging for a drafted player to prove that they demand and earn a spot in their first year. And if they don't, again, it's a different mindset than some of the other major sports, but it's okay if we don't see these players the first year.
Okay, Alison, hang with me here. This could be a loaded question, and Paul may need to reel me in. The Pacific Northwest is becoming a region of high expectations. Mariners, we talked about it. They're in first place. The fans want more. Seahawks win a Super Bowl last year. They want another one. Storm are struggling. Everybody knows it's a rebuild season with them. Sounders, it's got to be an MLS championship or bust. Seattle Kraken, fans want them back in the postseason. The Kraken will get back in the playoffs if what happens next year with this team?
Oh, that's a great question. You're hitting me hard, and we haven't even hit the ice yet. No, I think, you even look at who just won the Stanley Cup, the Carolina Hurricanes, a really talented team, but what did they have going for them that often doesn't happen? Health. So I think an overall good range of health on any team is always huge. I think seeing Bobby McMahon continue to produce at the level that he has shown in his career, huge. Seeing Mackie Samoskevich step up, very important. And then the other place I would look at, I think the defense has proven to be sound. I think under Lane Lambert's leadership, the systems that these groups are playing are right where they need to be. Let's make sure, too, goaltending, Philip Grubauer steps up, returns to form last year. Joey Decord has been strong for so long. Keep that goaltending where we saw it last year. Offense takes a step, defense stays stout, and the team is healthy. Those are my ingredients for success.
I like it. Well done. Well done.
And, you sprinkle in the head coach as well. And I'm glad you brought up Lane Lambert because I personally am a huge fan of this guy. I think he's done a great job in his first year there. But tell me what the intangibles are that he brings to the table that makes him such a good coach for this team.
I am also in the Lane Lambert fan group myself. I've teased him about calling ourselves as being on the Lane train. But above and beyond his systematic approach, which I think was really smart, I think he was an expert at looking at, first of all, his identity as a coach, and then looking at the pieces that were on his roster and saying, how does this team need to play to win? And then after the systems, the X's and O's of it, I think he brought two huge ingredients, and that's honesty and accountability. And if you watch some of the videos that the team has posted online of those post-win speeches in the room, I think fans can start to see that and see how the players connect with it. And in my experience with any professional athlete, really, that's just what they need. They need to know the truth, and they all need to be held accountable so that everyone is doing their job to their best ability, and therefore you have a pattern to success. So for me, above and beyond his hockey IQ, it's that honesty and accountability that he has brought to this culture that have just impressed me from day one without a question.
All right, Alison, you're also a broadcaster for the Seattle Torrent. I've lived here my whole life. I was absolutely amazed with the passion and the fan base for this team. The Professional Women's Hockey League has expanded to 12 teams for the upcoming season. Is that a sign of the depth of talent in women's hockey? And what do you think about the direction of the league?
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting time. And while it's an aggressive move to add 4 teams this past offseason, going from 8 to 12, I think what this does now is it allows the league to take a breath, right, and sit in this 12-team situation. Does this set us up even for potentially down the road conferences where there's a Western conference and an Eastern? That helps on the travel side. So I like the maturing that we're seeing from the league. And to your point, I like that it's giving opportunity. Do we maybe see a little bit of a difference between the highest end players and perhaps the entering or newer players to the league this season? Maybe. I think that's entirely possible. But now that there are more roster spots, that's maybe that extra bit of incentive that player in college who maybe perhaps before 3 years ago never saw a path to do hockey as their job, they now see it. And now they invest in their own career more. And now they're investing in their talent. And therefore, the talent pool rises. It also lets all those young kids who come to Torrent games and all the PW games see a spot. So now they're trying the sport. So now we have a bigger talent pool to pull from in general. So I think maybe we see a little bit more separation this coming year and next as we take the next huge step forward. But overall, I'm excited for what we're going to see on the ice, and particularly with these top 2 picks that are both going to be here out west in Vancouver and Seattle. So there's going to be some good competition there.
Yeah, going to be fun. It's just a crazy stat for the both of you. I read this recently that if you're a crazy parent looking at your 1 or 2 year old trying to figure out which sport they will have the best chance to get a scholarship in, right now, if you do the stats, it is girls hockey. Girls hockey. There are more scholarships out there and not as many players compared to all the other sports out there. So we try to provide, Paul, a little insight for the parents watching too.
That's a good one. That's good to hear.
Absolutely. And that's, again, it's all about opportunity. When I was young, there wasn't women's hockey to play. There wasn't girls hockey to play. We didn't see it. Now we see it, so we can be it. And that's to your exact, I love that stat. I'm stealing it just so you know, and I will give you credit.
Anytime.
But it is about now. This door is open that hasn't been open and hasn't been open this wide ever before. So it's just awesome to say, come in, fill the spots, try it out, see what you like. And what I love too about this league is that maybe your path in this league isn't on the ice. Maybe you see a path in the front office. Maybe you see a path on the business side. Maybe you see a path in the broadcaster booth. But it's really cool to see this just opening the eyes of people who maybe previously didn't see themselves in the sport that they loved, or maybe the sport they're just coming to love, and now they do.
Yeah, that's a great perspective there. Alison Lukan, the Kraken broadcaster from the start, and we appreciate you joining us, Alison. I know day before the NHL draft gets underway, so thanks for taking the time today.
Always my pleasure. I appreciate and love you both so much, and hopefully we'll see each other around the rink this coming week.